Welcome to Discover Art from the Allentown Art Museum. I'm your host and teacher, Miss Nicole. In Discover Art, we'll tour the museum learning amazing things about art and create a project inspired by what we learned. Artists use lots of tools when they create. Today we're going to learn about how artists use science, color, and sound to create illusions, movement, and sound in art. We're going to do a fun activity that uses science to trick our eyes. How can creativity and science combine to make great things? Let's go discover art with our eyes and our ears to find out. These are Bertoia sound sculptures. These 4 artworks are by artist Harry Bertoia. Bertoia is an internationally famous artist. He was born in Italy, but his family lived in a town very close to the museum. Artists are everywhere in the world, all around us. These sculptures are made of metal, and they are called sound sculptures because they make a sound when they're touched. They are both artworks and musical instruments. This artist had to think like a scientist to experiment with sound sculptures. When the different metal pieces of these sculptures hit each other, they make unique sound waves. These sound sculptures have to be touched in order to be played. 2 really important rules in a museum are to keep quiet and to never, ever touch the art. It's very important not to touch the art because we have bacteria and germs on our hands that can damage the art over time. To protect the artwork, museum workers wear special gloves and get special training. Would you like to hear the Bertoia sound sculptures? Think like a scientist and guess which artwork is going to be louder or softer based on the size and the shape. Now that we've seen artwork that experiments with our ears, we are going to see artwork that experiments with our eyes. This sculpture here is by an artist named Jesus Rafael Soto. Jesus Rafael Soto was a very famous op artist. Op art is short for optical art, but you have probably heard of optical illusions. This artwork uses the way our minds and our eyes work to trick us into seeing something that isn't there. When you look at it here, you can see colorful squares and black and white lines. But if you move to look at the art, you will see an illusion. The black and white lines make your eyes skip. This makes the art look like it's moving, but it's perfectly still. The artist does this by using colors and shapes in just the right way. The artist also uses contrast. Contrast is putting 2 things next to each other that are very different, like the colors black and white, or putting a very big shape next to a very tiny shape. The skinny black and white lines have a lot of contrast, and the blue squares distract our eyes. All of those things together make an illusion. The last artwork we're going to see uses op art in a very different way. Take a few seconds to look at this artwork. This is an op art painting by Richard Anuszkiewicz that uses color and contrast. The artist uses a few rules called color theory to make his art. One of the rules of color theory talks about contrast. Earlier, we learned that contrast happens when 2 very different things are put together. This artist makes contrast with complementary colors. This is an image of a color wheel. You might have seen a color wheel before in art class. Complementary colors are 2 colors that are opposite on the color wheel. Red is the complementary color to green. Look at the color wheel to find the other pairs. When you put a complementary color next to each other, like this artist did with red and green, our eyes blend colors together. Do you see colors blending and moving in this artwork? Now that we learned about op art, we are going to visit the Crayola classroom to make our own op art artwork. By creating a pattern of lines and shapes, you can make an illusion in an easy, fun way. We got to see two artists who make illusions. We saw Anuszkiewicz and Jesus Rafael Soto. You can make an illusion with black and white or with color. So today we are going to need paper, pencil, erasers, and a straight edge. Now I'm going to start with a blank paper and a pencil. I'm going to start off by looking for a shape tracer. So I'll use this roll of tape here for a circle. Look around you and see how many interesting shapes you can find. For this project, you're going to want to find 3 or 4 really interesting, cool shapes. So I have this here, and I'm just going to use it like my other tracers to trace a shape. Now I think I'll do a bigger shape using my ruler here. If you don't have a ruler, you can use a magazine like we saw last time, or even a folder. So I will do a nice big shape. The bigger your shapes are, the better they'll come out. But if you make your shapes too big, they might not fit on the paper. So I've got 3 really cool shapes here. I'm gonna add one more, a rectangle. I think this corner up here looks a little lonely. I'm going to use my hole punch, and I'll just trace one more. So you can see that I have 5 shapes here. They're all different, and they're laid out in a really interesting way. Now that I have my shapes done, I'm going to talk about the next step. So I'm going to take my ruler, and what I am going to do is place my ruler down and draw diagonal lines. But with my diagonal lines, I'm only drawing them outside of my shapes on the background of my paper. I'm not going to draw inside my shapes. So I will just start drawing a diagonal line. And with your lines, it's important to get them about the same distance apart. But they don't need to be perfect. Just do your best. See how my diagonal lines look even? I'm doing my best just to make sure that they're not too far apart or close together. The more lines you have, and the closer together they are, the better your artwork is going to look. So these are my lines outside of my shapes. You can see they're all going in the same direction, and they're all about evenly spaced. Now the next step is for me to flip it the other way, and I'm going to draw lines in the other direction, only inside my shapes. So here I'm just going the exact opposite way. I'm starting at the corner and drawing across. So I'll go across my shape here, and then if you look, I can just draw one line through my triangle and then through my rectangle here. And if you have a shape that overlaps, like this one here, just keep drawing a straight line through it. Here we have our finished line drawing. You can already see our illusions start to happen. So wherever we see lines going in opposite directions, it really makes our brains wonder what we're seeing. So for our next step, we're going to need contrast. Earlier, we talked about contrast using color, but contrast can also happen in black and white. So to finish your artwork, you can either use pencil or black markers to make black and white lines, or you can use a contrasting color pair like blue and orange to make your artwork pop. So what I'm gonna do is take out my markers here, and I'm going to pick a contrasting color pair. Before I picked blue and orange, so I'm gonna pick my favorite color, yellow, and the contrasting color, purple. The other 2 contrasting pairs are blue and orange and red and green. So any of these pairs are gonna make your artwork really pop and make your illusion stand out. I'm not going to go around the edges. What I'm going to do is just only color the stripe. And I like to start on the inside of my shapes first. So this corner here, I'm going to color that purple, and then I'm going to skip a line, and I will color this line purple. It's really important to make sure that you color only every other line, because otherwise your illusion won't look as nice. And something that might help you is to go around your shape first, and then color it in, just so you don't accidentally cross over your lines. Now that I've finished one shape with the purple, I'm going to start with yellow. So I'm going to finish up my illusion and color the whole thing, and then I'll show you what my final illusion looks like. This week we learned how artists use our mind, our eyes, and our ears to make interesting art. I hope you enjoyed making your own illusion. The next time you hear music playing or see an illusion, I hope you remember what you learned today. So remember to keep discovering art.